What's going on, everyone? It's Griffin here, and if you're a Canadian wanting to sell on Amazon USA, then today's video is specifically for you. Now, as a Canadian myself, when I started selling on Amazon USA, there were a ton of things that I just could not find answers to. Things like legal entities, bank accounts, and just overall rules that you need to follow as a Canadian selling on Amazon USA. So now that I have a business up and running in the US as a Canadian, I thought I would make this video in order to save you guys some time and confusion about things that not a lot of people talk about on YouTube and forums when it comes to selling on Amazon FBA, because it's not necessarily fun things, but they're definitely important things that you need to set up from the get-go in order to have a nice foundation for your business. Now, do note, however, that I am not a tax accountant or a lawyer, so the information in this video, use it at your own risk, and it's not necessarily financial or legal advice. However, I do encourage you to use the information in this video because it will save you a ton of time and a ton of headaches. So without further ado, let's get into the content of this video. All right, so before I get into more technical things related to cross-border banking accounts or setting up your own legal entity or not for taxation purposes in Canada, I just want to talk about analysis paralysis in regards to these concepts. Now, if you're just finding out about Amazon FBA, there is so much information out there on YouTube and other websites, it can be super overwhelming. Now, although I would recommend doing adequate research and really knowing how the whole Amazon FBA model works before diving in, do not get crippled and overwhelmed by overanalyzing and overthinking what you're gonna be doing in order to set up your business before you actually go out and get some sales. Make sure that when you're at the beginning of your Amazon FBA business, you're setting it all up, you're excited and all that, spend a lot of time doing adequate product research so that you have a good winning product that's going to be good on the long term. That said though, you do not need to know every single thing about the back end of Amazon FBA and a business, example, taxation, bank accounts, all that, in order to actually start your own business and get a product launched on Amazon. The reason I'm mentioning this is because I've seen it myself, I've seen it in friends and other sellers who, when you're trying to set up your business at the beginning, it can be really enticing, and you would think that you want to set everything up in terms of the foundation before taking action, before having a product in stock. But what I would say is if you're really serious about starting your own business with Amazon FBA, I would give myself maybe a 3-week buffer from the point in time where you learn about Amazon for the first time, for example, and you start your product research to the point when you've made a decision in terms of what product you're going to be launching on Amazon. Because at the end of the day, guys, having a specific bank account, setting up a certain legal entity or whatever really doesn't matter unless your business has sales. As your product is live, you're making sales, you're interacting with customers, you're learning how Amazon really works as an algorithm and as a platform, you're going to be learning tons of things as you go. That's going to be a lot more valuable than spending, let's say, 3 months at the beginning trying to analyze everything and not really getting a pinpoint of how the whole thing works because you're relying on everyone else's opinion. Now, as I said though, definitely do research, especially product research before launching your business. But on that note, let's get into more technical things as a Canadian when you're setting up your Amazon FBA business. So first off, should you be incorporating your business when starting your Amazon FBA business, or should you stay a sole proprietorship? And if you do decide to incorporate, do you need a Canadian corporation or an American LLC? Now, there are two things here that I'm going to address separately. Should you incorporate your business off the bat or stay a sole proprietorship? Well, it's important that you make an informed decision based on your financial standing and your financial goals in the next coming years. Although it's not mandatory to have a corporation to sell on Amazon, it's important that you understand the different taxation situations that arise with each option. If you set up your business as a sole proprietorship, you're going to be paying a personal income tax rate on the money that you generate from your Amazon business. Now, depending on the income that you make from your other sources of income, whether it be a job, YouTube, or any other side hustle, it's important to realize here that if you make a substantial amount of money through Amazon FBA, this is going to count towards your personal income tax rate, which could potentially put you in a higher tax bracket. Now, on the flip side, if you have a corporation, the money you make from Amazon is not going to count towards your personal income, but the corporation's income, which depending on your personal income right now, could have a lower taxation rate than your personal or vice versa. So let's look at an example here. Let's say I am a Quebec resident, which I am, and I make, let's say, $50,000 from a job, $10K from YouTube, and then my Amazon business does, let's say, $60,000 in revenue in the year at a 30% profit margin, for a total of 20K profit at the end of the year, then that would put me at what, 20 plus 5, that's $80,000 in personal income tax after all deductions. If my Amazon business was set up as a sole proprietorship, I would have an annual personal income of $80,000, meaning I would have to pay about 37% in tax between federal and provincial, which would be about $21,700. Now, if the business was a corporation, however, I would be paying corporate income tax rate on $20,000 and then personal income tax on $60,000. So on the personal side, it would be $14,276, and then on the corporate side, it would be about $3,800 for a total of $17,846. So in this particular case, it is beneficial to have a corporation set up rather than a sole proprietorship where you're paying the entirety on a personal income tax rate. So once again, depending on your goals, I do encourage you to calculate this out, see what would be more beneficial for you with your personal situation, and then make an informed decision. And while we're still on the subject of corporations, do know that as a Canadian, you absolutely do not need to have an American LLC to sell on Amazon. Actually, you can't necessarily have an American LLC as a Canadian. So all you need if you want to be a corporation is register with either your province or federally to have a corporation. So the second thing that confused me to no end and took a ton of trial and error to finally get the real facts down pat is the entire bank account situation as a Canadian and how Amazon pays you out and in what currency. Now I know what you're probably thinking, Griffin, this does not sound all that complicated, linking a bank account to your Amazon Seller Central account, but here's the deal, okay? Amazon's made it really difficult as a Canadian and really complicated in terms of how you can receive US funds for your sales on the platform. Because here's the thing, I'm a Canadian, but I'm selling on the American platform and I'm collecting American money. So naturally, I'm gonna wanna have American funds come into my account and not Canadian funds to then get hit with a conversion fee when they're sending it to me, and then another conversion fee when I'm ordering stuff from China from my suppliers, and then another conversion fee and another, and it just never ends. So if you link a Canadian bank account to your Amazon Seller Central account, whether it's in Canadian funds or American funds even, a US dollar checking account, for example, you will not be able to receive American funds in that account. Now let me explain exactly what I mean here, because this information I got after a ton of trial and error and time spent on the phone with Amazon customer service, and it's really going to save you a ton of time. So actually, if you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. If your bank account is physically located in Canada, whether it's a Canadian or US dollar account, Amazon will only disperse your funds in Canadian dollars using their currency exchange platform. And obviously, Amazon's going to use every opportunity they can to make some money off of you. So by using this currency exchange thing, you're going to be losing some money on every single transaction. So what I thought doing is, okay, I'm going to outsmart them. I'm going to open a US dollar bank account in Canada. They're going to disperse my funds in US dollars. It's going to go in perfect, I'm gonna be happy, everything is gonna be great, right? But what ended up happening here is because, once again, the account, even if it's a US dollar account, is physically located in Canada, they don't care that whether or not it's American. They tried to convert the money into Canadian funds, depositing Canadian funds into an American account. So obviously it bounced back and I had to wait a full other pay cycle in order to figure out a way of what the heck I'm gonna do and get that money back in American dollars. What I ended up figuring out by reading forums and a couple other YouTube videos is you need to actually open what's called a cross-border banking account with either TD, RBC, BMO, and there might be a couple other banks, but these are the ones that I'm aware of that do this service. So this option allows you to open a personal US-based checking account. And notice I said personal here. It is not a business bank account that you're going to be opening in the United States if you take this route. So although this will work, you're going to be able to receive funds from Amazon in American dollars into your American account. Unless you have a corporation set up from the get-go, all the money that you're receiving into your personal account, that US account that you're going to set up with cross-border banking, so unless you have a corporation set up from the get-go, you're going to be paying a personal income tax rate on the profit after all deductions and all that back in Canada. So if you open a cross-border banking account like this, a personal one, you're gonna have to sign what's called a W-8 form, which is basically a form telling the IRS that you're gonna be paying income tax to the CRA in Canada on the income generated from those sales in the US. So this is where it gets a bit tricky though. If you do have a corporation set up the entire time, you can technically receive the corporate funds through your personal bank account in the United States. Now, this is something that if you do, I would definitely do it with an accountant because it can get tricky and you definitely don't want to mess with the IRS or the CRA. So this is actually how I operated for the first couple of months running my Amazon FBA business. I had the personal account, but then I decided, you know what? I'm gonna incorporate my business just because I was generating quite a bit of money at the beginning here. So I incorporated the business and then I was looking for different options to open a corporate bank account in the United States. But at the time I was with TD, and at TD you can only open a cross-border banking account that is a personal. So I looked at other banks and I wasn't able to find another bank that would open a corporate bank account based in the United States until very recently actually. BMO Harris is actually the only bank that allows you to open a cross-border bank account for your Canadian corporation. This is pretty much going to be the exact same process as with your personal bank account, but for your corporation, you're going to be signing a W-8 form instead of a W-8 form, which is basically, once again, telling the IRS that you're going to be paying your income tax on your corporation with the CRA in Canada. All right, guys, I hope I did not confuse you even more than you might have been already. The point of today's video was really just to outline 2 or 3 different concepts that will save you a ton of time that I wish I knew when starting my own Amazon FBA business as a Canadian. So if you enjoyed this video though, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I release content every Monday and Thursday or Friday. So 2 times a week, I try to stay really active in terms of some different concepts related to online business specifically and cryptocurrency mining. So if that's something that interests you, consider subscribing to the channel and hit that bell button. So on that note, I will see you in the next video.